Briana, Aldridge, and Jett Beachum out here at AT&T Stadium, where the Cowboys just wrapped up their Week 2 loss. And it is something, Jett, that I don't think was on people's bingos card. I know I had them winning. I think I predicted 35-21, and they flipped the script. The Saints, we talked about them maybe being a little bit of a fluke Week 1, going against a not-so-great Panthers team. So that was not true. What did you see from them just in the first half?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I think you have to give some credit to the Saints, right? With Derek Carr at quarterback, again, they scored on their first 9 drives last week against the Panthers. Today against the Cowboys, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. This new offense under Clint Kubiak, their first-year offensive coordinator, has just been fantastic. But again, that Dallas defense that we saw last week against the Browns did not show up today. I honestly, I was surprised. You know, I had it 27-17 Cowboys. I didn't think this Saints offense was going to run over them the way they did. And they sure did.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara, that was a name that felt like I was putting out the same tweet over and over and over again. And by the time we hit the 3rd touchdown, it was just unbelievable. Running the ball, he was a pass catcher, and a couple of times he was wide open.
Yeah, and if you take it back to you know, a lot of fans are probably thinking about last year's playoff game against Green Bay, where they had 6 touchdowns on their first 7 drives. They had a guy named Aaron Jones who scored 4 touchdowns in that game at running back. Alvin Kamara today, 4 touchdowns at running back. He had that big catch, and then, you know, off the screen pass, and then took it to the house. They just couldn't stop the run, and that's been a glaring issue for the Cowboys over these past few years. And again, we didn't see it last week, and now I'm just thinking, oh, it's because they didn't have Nick Chubb and 2 tackles.
Yeah.
So how good is this Cowboys run defense? Is it improved? That's a big question mark now.
Yeah, they definitely flipped the script, and I think honestly, it's going to be one of those things where you have to wait and see what they do against the Ravens now in Week 3 because they switched it so much. Here today, Mike Zimmer's defense has been the talk of at the start all week long. How excited we were. They only had 3 pressure packages that they showed in Week 1, and we didn't see anything today. Yeah,
the only sack that the Cowboys were credited for was Derek Carr rolling out, just decided to reach the football across to try and at least make the line to gain, and he didn't. And Chauncey Golston was credited with the sack. So they didn't even bring Derek Carr down. That is unbelievable considering how we saw Deshaun Watson last week seemingly was running for his life. So it was a little surprising the Cowboys were able to get a turnover, but you know, it comes too late. Again, the offense was able to score and kind of keep pace today, but you know, they couldn't do enough with the defense that, quite honestly, just didn't show up.
I have to say, I knew it was just going to get ugly when Dak Prescott had to make a half a tackle out here today, and that's the point where I had to close the laptop because like things are getting out of control. But like you said, the offense just never got into that rhythm. It felt like Game 1, it was a little rusty, but they had those more than just one play of splash plays, and today they just could not get into rhythm, and it just looked like the Aubrey show out there, really.
Yeah, Brandon Aubrey. Let me tell you, he's got a really good MVP case right now. He's probably going to lead the league in points and be another All-Pro, but the Cowboys don't want that. They want him to be a security blanket that can, you know, get those points when they're at the 40 and these yard lines. But man, they are relying on this guy a lot. Again, you know, kind of like last week, as you mentioned, they just have trouble in the red zone. And Dak Prescott mentioned that today. You know, they're trying to improve on things. Last week it was 3rd downs. This, you know, looking at this week, it's red zone. I mean, you know, they could get in the end zone once tonight, and it was that long pass play to CeeDee Lamb, who makes a great move and proves that he deserved the $35 million.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to look at a lot of positive things when they go back and look at the tape. That they always say, like, let us look at the tape. There's not going to be a lot of positives they're going to find offensively, but let's try. So you said CeeDee Lamb, of course, that long pass catch that he had, and they always seem to at least get one of those, one big splash one, right? But I want to talk a little bit about Jalen Tolbert, mostly because he was my player to watch. So I was like, let's see what he's going to do out here, right? He was the 2nd leader up there on the board when it comes to pass catching today, which I thought was interesting. He had 8 targets today. Last week he only had 2, 1 completion. So I think that, if anything, I think will be a big positive, something he can build on for that possible breakout year maybe coming up.
And for sure. And of course, Jake Ferguson, who actually, walking back to the locker room, loudly said, hey, I'm going to be with you guys next week. So, you know, I think Jake Ferguson, he was close today. The Cowboys were being pretty precautionary. That's Dak's 2nd favorite target. So getting Jake Ferguson back is going to be huge. Luke Schoonmaker had his probably best game as a Cowboy. I mean, obviously they relied on him a lot. But Jake Ferguson's a Pro Bowl tight end for a reason. and he's a security blanket for a reason, and Dak Prescott certainly missed him today.
Yeah, and this game, it has a little bit more of course, it was an NFC opponent, but, that regular season record, I know it's not the top at the list, but it's got to hurt that that's out the window, right? They were 2 away from the franchise record here.
Yeah. It would have been, 17 today if they were able to pick it up. Obviously, they lost the one in the playoffs, but, we'll see what happens if they can get things going again. A Ravens squad coming up that has the reigning MVP, but is somehow 0-2 on the year now after losing to the Raiders. Again, they have a good offense. I think it's going to be a game where there's a lot of points scored because you got Lamar Jackson, you got Derrick Henry against that Cowboys rush defense. They're going to have a real test next week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one. And you know what? It always seems like sometimes you got to get knocked down pretty hard to get back up. And that looks like it's going to be the big challenge coming in here week 3. But they get to do it again at home. So hopefully it is a different result than this 44-19 loss. We saw their heads, it was quiet going back to the locker room as you would expect. But again, it's only week 2. Like most of the theme in the locker room, you can't really put too much into week 2. You just have to kind of brush this off and move on to the next one because that's how the league is.
Yeah. And we'll see if they can start a new 16-game home regular winning streak.
It's a long way to go, yes. That's going to be it for now. For Briana, Aldridge, for Jett, Beachum.